Hello, my name is Professor Dr. Marc Beutner from the University in Paderborn, which is right in Germany, and I'm having there the share of business and human resource education too. And today I'd like to introduce you a little bit to a study of ours about generative AI. So I share my screen with you, and I did this research together with my research assistant and staff member Jan Philipp Lütke, and a special thanks to him for all his support and work. And today I introduce you to a study with the title Generative AI as a supportive but non-substitutive tool, students' perspectives on learning, reflection and transversal skills. Therefore, we start with a closer look at generative AI. And in 2025, the OECD said already that generative AI can bring a significant opportunities for productivity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, which are key drivers of economic growth and well-being. And therefore, we need to know, what do I understand when I'm looking at generative AI, and therefore I go back to a definition provided by the University of Pittsburgh in 2026, and there is said generative artificial intelligence tools are machine learning models trained on massive pools of information to learn patterns from data to create novel content like text, images, audio, video in response to a prompt. Unlike internet searches, generative AI tools do not use algorithms to locate and curate existing sources. Instead, they create new content by predicting what words, sound, and pixel would come next in a pattern. What does this mean in concrete? So typical machine learning and deep learning comes together with neural networks. So there is typically a lot of neurons which build up a similar structure like in our brain, and there is always an input layer where information come into the system. Then there are the hidden layers where the work is done within the generative AI tool, and then the output layer provides us with the information. And the most important thing is that such a machine learning and deep learning system can do a lot more than creating only text. So therefore, there are several opportunities which are important, for example, also for education. And here is just a short overview. Accompanying text, there can be also tools which are creating presentations, graphics, pictures or images, audios, podcasts, videos. They can code. There can be the possibility to create designs, avatars, and many more things. So it's really not the case that we can say that a large language model is only creating texts, and that is much more when it comes to machine or deep learning with neural networks. So let's have a closer look at generative AI and transformation issues. So generative AI comes with different aspects to the world. So there are already the discussions about job displacements. It's taking over routine office work today. There is automatic explanation or something like language translations. There can be a specific focus on content creation, but nevertheless there is a big chance but also some challenges when it comes to educational use. And therefore, there are in the background some discussions going on about the reduction of operational costs when you're using generative AI, about data privacy and security, which has to be taken into account. And last but not least, also the option to get more output with fewer resources, which can be a sort of productivity boost when you're using generative AI. So we at our University Paderborn, we try to innovate our study program. Therefore, we want to introduce students which are in a study program of business and human resource education at the University Paderborn with a new approach, which includes elements into a study module which already existed. This existing study module was the module Media Didactics and Media Pedagogy, and therefore I'm focusing on students which will be vet teacher students and become future vet teachers, but also which are in the field of business administration and will work later on in businesses and enterprises. And this was more or less about media support, but nowadays we created as a blended learning module where we have some face-to-face parts in it and combine it with online parts. And the last innovation was that we integrated neural networks and the information about neural networks, but also about the Gen I use in educational context into the study module. And therefore, we integrated this by using the TPAC approach. So, a blended learning module is a learning unit that deliberately combines this face-to-face learning and digitalization or digital learning or online learning in a meaningful way. This is not just an addition. So in the parts of face-to-face learning, we refer to the parts of online learning, and in the online learning, we also refer to the parts in the face-to-face scenario. So in the online learning, we have both. We have synchronous but also asynchronous work. But what is TPAC now? TPAC comes to foster digital and AI competences of students in our approach. So this approach emphasizes that educators, teachers, and trainers combine that what we call technological knowledge, or TK, with pedagogical knowledge, PK, and content knowledge, CK. And this is combined in a way to be successful and create and possess the use of the technological pedagogical content knowledge, which is TPAC and which is standing in the focus of all our work. So what are the elements of our approach? In our approach, we are fostering digital and AI competences of our students, as I said before. And it's not just about teaching them how to use AI tools. No, it's more. In our module, it is also about helping them to understand, question, and create with AI in a meaningful way with regard to different pedagogical settings and the requirements of these settings. Therefore, we engage the students in a structured reflection on their current knowledge. We also try to take part, to make them take part in reflective interviews to act as multipliers. So they're invited to take to have an interview with us, to have a longer discussion, and to provide them with all necessary information that they can be multipliers when they're back at school and their working groups, but also when they're back in a company. Last but not least, the groups collaboratively develop a more comprehensive reflection on their use of AI and provide that within a block. So the students' perspectives on generative AI in the learning context was now gathered by reflections from 4 student groups, and the total number was 24 students, and each group had 6 students. The data were analyzed by us using qualitative cross-group thematic analysis categories, and the main anchor topics were structured in a table. The analysis followed the inductive approach, allowing categories to emerge also from the data while being sensitized by the guiding dimensions of our interviews. So there are 2 main aspects. The group-based reflections represent collectively negotiated perspectives rather than individual opinions. So when we are coming here with the group reflections, then this is already agreed within the group. And each group created also a blog. This subsequent blog entries were developed also collaboratively by them and went also in our analysis. So the research from the qualitative analysis of the reflective interviews and the group reflections came to these results. First result, they said generative AI is described by these students as an integral part of students' learning practices. Moreover, the students mentioned that AI is used to create learning materials such as practice questions and visualizations, thereby extending traditional study practices. And last but not least, their work with generative AI is primarily embedded in preparatory and supportive phases of learning rather than the final knowledge production. And this is a little bit surprising because when we had first discussions ahead of this structuring, many people said to us that the generative AI will be used in final knowledge production, and also because this is a part of the creation process. But it's not, it's for the students, they use it in preparatory and supportive phases. So, moreover, all groups indicated that generative AI is a supportive but non-substitutive element in learning. So, supportive means it supports the learning process of them, but it's not substituting other ways of learning, and it's not substituting any direct course lecture or the blended learning approach. Also, they state that Gen AI is seen as a companion for them, like a tool in the backpack. And the responsibility for understanding, decision-making, knowledge construction remains clearly assigned to the learners, so the students recognize their own responsibilities. Moreover, students consistently report that Gen AI enables efficiency gains in learning, and the students mention that Gen AI reduces entry barriers to complex tasks. Last but not least, they also describe that Gen AI accelerates information processing and supports the structuring of knowledge. In addition to that, the students also highlight the risk that generative AI may encourage shortcutting cognitive processes, reduce independent thinking, and limit creative problem solving. For students, generative AI for our students is frequently conceptualized as a sort of second opinion. So they got some information and they're reflecting about that information. The students mention that Gen AI outputs may appear plausible but being factually incorrect or incomplete, highlighting concerns related to accuracy, reliability, and the potential of misinformation. So also the critical reflection of the answers is recognized by the students. So across all student groups, competences such as critical thinking, self-regulated learning, domain-specific knowledge, and prompting skills emerge as central prerequisites for meaningful AI learning. And notably, the findings suggest that Gen AI does not diminish the need for competences, but rather intensifies and reconfigures them. Gen AI is perceived as a tool for automatic teaching, but rather as a resource of fostering reflection, discussion, and critical engagement. So, acceptable AI use means essay considerations and assessment practices as perceived as a barrier, and strong demand of or for a structured support. This implicates active and reflective engagement emerges as a key condition for maintaining learning quality. Unclear rules, ethical uncertainties, and the lack of guidance are perceived as barriers to responsible AI use. it acts as a catalyst that shifts educational focus from knowledge acquisition towards a competence development, and education should use support frameworks like TPACK. To finalize this, further research should further investigate how different modes of AI use influence learning processes and outcomes, and experimental and intervention-based studies are needed to explore how pedagogical frameworks can effectively integrate Gen AI while maintaining learners' agency and promoting reflective engagement. So, in total, Gen AI should not be understood as a tool that replaces learning, but as a transformative force. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for providing me with feedback if you want. And I'm happy to see you soon at another place. Thank you for watching me, and have a nice time here at EdMedia 2026. Yours, Marc Beutner.